Sculpting and painting robots in VR, it's way cooler than it sounds. In this video, I want to show you how fun and how easy it can be to create a robot inside VR. And I'm using Medium for this one. And I've actually recorded this one a while ago, and I wanted to sculpt a robot based on a concept that I did a couple of years ago. And I wanted to see how easy it is to work with a 2D concept and actually have a 3D model that I can show to a client, or even 3D print, and see if I can import it into ZBrush. And I was amazed on how fast you can create something in VR. Like the first of all, the interface is super simple. The UI is really easy to use. It's not like any other software that it usually takes a while until you get the hang of menus and where everything is and how to figure out, and if you do that step, what follows after it, and so on. In this one, you can imagine is like you've been dropped into this room and you have all these, tools, and you just have fun. It's like the simplest way I can say it's like building with Legos, but you have like infinite amount of Legos, and any piece that you want to create is just available for you. And you'll notice that I'm using really simple tools. I don't have any fancy OBJ or my own library installed into it. I just use whatever Medium uses. I wanted to see how much you can get out of a software just out of the box. And just by using cubes, spheres, cylinders, and triangles, pyramids, and the other, tools and OBJ and 3D objects that the software comes with, you can actually build anything. Like in this tutorial, in this video, what I'm showing you is the actual process from start to finish, how I go and figure out how to take that 2D drawing and make it into a 3D model. Now, the best thing about VR sculpting is the fact that I've been working almost 14 years as a digital artist. I've worked in 3D Max, I've worked in Maya, I've worked in ZBrush. You're working in 3D, but you're actually looking at a 2D, screen all the time. When I first grabbed the controllers on the Medium and I started sculpting and building the robot in VR, honestly, it felt so crazy good. Like, I remember giggling the first time like a kid on how amazing that felt, that you can actually put your head through a model, and you can actually, if you want to see how that model will fit, you have to tilt your head and look underneath the model, and the most amazing part, as a toy designer, it's hard to visualize how a model will look on screen, right? But with this one, you can actually scale the thing to be as big as you're holding it in your hand, or you can make it huge and you can actually run around or just look from underneath or any other angle or from above or whatever. It's just that feeling is just gives you so many options in creating something that it's hard to visualize in just 2D and just rotating stuff on screen. After creating a couple of robots and a couple of models inside Medium, the question is, would I use this as my day-to-day, sculpting for clients? And the answer is no. Why? Because it's such a different medium to work in, and you have to you have to start. For me, workflow is really important. Knowing that something will give me the exact, a model, the exact look that I'm going for. It's really, really important, especially when you're working with clients. Would I use this to create concepts? Oh yeah. Like I think it beats anything out there. Like you not even ZBrush, not even Maya, not even Blender, nothing compares to how great this feels when creating concepts and just going crazy and just trying shapes. Especially if you're doing robots, oh god, you're gonna have so much fun with this. I know I did, and if you would want to create a spaceship, imagine that you can actually sit on a chair and you can actually start building the ship from the inside, from the cockpit out. Like you would build the cockpit and then you would, stand up, look at it, and then start building your ship outside, based on that cockpit. And I can just imagine how amazing that would be, just creating like concept cars and this, just making things that much intuitive. Now, with that being said, I've seen some amazing artists using these in their, project, like actual projects, and the results are just amazing. Like it's just beautiful. And I think it's just a matter of figuring out a workflow, figuring out which software works. Because as with any 3D software or with any new workflow that you add, you always have the good and the bad, right? So working with voxels, it was the first time that I worked with voxels, and exporting that into ZBrush, it was new. But it wasn't that hard to work with, especially the fact that you can actually put different pieces on different layers, which is really important if you plan to do some editing after, because it's gonna make your life that much easier. The beauty of that is if you add your elements on layers, it's going to be, when you import it into ZBrush, it will have, you can go polygroup, auto groups, and we'll just add all the separate parts that you added on different layers as its own polygroup. So you can imagine you can actually take each part, clean it up, Z-remesh it, add your own details to it, and then you can move to the next one. If you work on one layer and you start adding, I don't recommend that, because some layers you need a lot of detail, so you can add more detail to that layer. Other layers don't need that much detail, so you can keep them really simple. So I would highly recommend working in layers if you plan to export this into other 3D software and just, I don't know, rendering it. And if you stick to the end, I'm going to show you how this model looks in ZBrush. Although at the end of the video, I'm actually showing you how you can paint the thing, and then you can actually set up some lights, and you can get some beautiful shots, and you can change the background, and you can make like a studio shot with the camera being your head, and you can actually move around and see how it looks. But I'll also show you how you can how this will look rendered in Dimension, because I rendered this in Dimension. Just wanted to see how this would look, without touching it, without doing any work, if this would be. I took the model into Dimension without touching it, without cleaning it in ZBrush. Just wanted to see what the result it can give me. And I'm really impressed. For something that you put 1 hour into it, just creating stuff, it's like, yeah, it is kit bashing at the end of the day. It's like you're taking elements and you're just throwing them and you see. But I wanted to work with a concept. I wanted to see, can I take that 2D concept and actually create a robot after it? Time that you put into it and the result that it gives you, just mind-blowing, honestly. Like even using it the first time when I did my first robot, it looked like crap, you can imagine. But just doing, I think this was my second or my third robot that I did, and this is how fast you get the hang of the interface. You don't need, it's not a lot. You just have a panel, you just have a couple of tools. You use some kind of a Boolean which you subtract or you add to it. You use simple shapes, and you can sculpt or move them and sculpt into them or remove some stuff, and you can create anything with it. So I really hope you enjoy this one. I'm just gonna leave you with the video, and if you stick to the end, I'm gonna show you how the model looks into ZBrush. All right, have fun. Once you finish your sculpt in VR, just make sure you export it as an OBJ. Now, when you import the model in ZBrush, this is what you're going to get. It's a bit large and the rotation is off. But if I go F to frame it, and then I can rotate it, this is what you get for an hour work. And to be honest, this is not bad. This is really great. And to be able to flush this out from a 2D sketch, and then you can actually send this to a renderer like, I don't know, Sketchfab online, or you can render it in Dimension, and you will get a really decent render out of this. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Now, here's the beautiful thing about this. If you save these, when you create the model or the robot or whatever you're creating, and you put them on layers, if you go and open up groups, this is what happens. As I told you, it will ZBrush will recognize those and it will make groups for each one. So that makes it really easy. If I want to go ahead and, go ahead and split these, split hidden. I went ahead and also prepared one before. So this is the one that I did. And you'll notice the fact that I have them now separate, I can add different shaders to them. And to be honest, I can even send this to a client. I can send this to a client and, get approval on it and make sure it looks good. And then I can go in and actually clean this. Because if we look at the mesh, I'm going to show you this one. If you look at the mesh, you'll notice it's not clean or anything. It has a lot of problems. But again, for less than an hour work, it looks really, really well. Okay, now if I go ahead and export this as an FBX or an OBJ, and I can send it to Dimension, and just with a couple of simple shaders, you can get something like this. And if I go ahead and render this, you'll notice for a really fast sculpt and just figuring out shapes and fleshing out your model or your concept, I also went ahead and imported this into Sketchfab. And if you haven't heard of Sketchfab, you should definitely check it out. It's really great when you have to, show your clients the models without sending them like a lot of screenshots from all sides. They can go in, they can even check their models on their phone. So you can actually rotate. The beauty of it is what I love about it is my clients can go Alt and they can actually drag the light so they can, see it. And Sketchfab is a really good quick renderer for your models. I really hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions, I'm looking forward to hearing them. And see you in the next one.
Łazimka mnie.